Welcome everybody to GDG Dallas, January 2022, building a Flutter app with only 10 widgets with Syed Ali Al-Kamel, which I'm sure is a horrible pronunciation, but a quick intro is he is a GDE expert, that's a Google developer expert in Flutter and Dart, and a passionate mobile apps developer with over 6 years of experience building and publishing mobile apps. Syed has developed more than 10 apps in his career. One of those apps has more than 2.5 million downloads with an average rating of 4.6 in the Play Store. And I'll let him introduce himself. Take it away, Syed. Syed.
All right. Hello, everyone. So I just want to say also it was the correct translation. So thank you, Luke. Let me just share my screen at the beginning. All right. So welcome from the other side of the world, you can say. So we'll start. So thank you for the introduction. So I will start by introducing myself a little bit more. So my name is Syed Ali Al-Kamel. So I live in this tiny island in the Arabian Gulf, which currently, as we mentioned before, maybe it's 4 a.m. for us right now. So I started, let's say, my career in mobile development as a native Android developer. And this was in 2014. I published my first app in 2015, and since then, I've been working, as a native Android developer. I also been working as a native iOS developer for a while until 2018 when Flutter was introduced. So at that time, it was, for me at least, someone who's trying to do both a native Android and iOS. At that time, whenever anyone says to me that there is a solution or there is a framework to do a cross-platform application, I will just reject even hearing about it, to be honest. So until Flutter came, and I was not sure at the beginning what's going on here. There is something that is have some potential. So I started reading about it, learning about it, and today during the session, I will discuss a little bit more why the reasons I decided to shift from native Android and iOS to Flutter. And today's workshop is we are going to talk about how to build a mobile application or a simple UI application with using 10 widgets only. And this is an introduction to Flutter course. And the whole purpose here is to show that what you can do with only the knowledge of 10 widgets. And this can give confidence for new joiners to Flutter to start working on simple projects and start developing their own project, their own apps, and get into Flutter. Okay, so let's get started, I think. So yeah, so you can see like a lot of you guys have been having experience in Android development and can see different backgrounds. So most of Flutter developers also have this kind of backgrounds. So Flutter is kind of new, so it's not an old framework. So it's very normal for Flutter developers to have like a specialty in Flutter and something else before Flutter. And it's actually something that Flutter is also helping people when they started their journey in Flutter. You can see in the documentation like a place where it would say like Flutter for Android developers or Flutter for iOS developers. It will help you get started faster. So for those who didn't hear about Flutter, so this is how Flutter was introduced to me. So Flutter is a Google UI framework. This was in the beginning of the years. So currently it became a cross-platform cross-platform framework. However, I wanted to share with you how it was introduced to me and what kind of things that really made the choice to go to Flutter. So Flutter is a Google UI framework that is built for building high quality native experiences for across multiple platforms in record times. So what happened to me when someone says that to me, it's like so when you say you will do it in record times, you kind of going to say you will miss on performance, on quality, on things like that. But asking for saying that you will do high quality applications in record times is kind of an interesting concept here, where Flutter been known to do very well. So what is the challenges current at for mobile development? So you have this two approaches where you want to go for mobile native development or cross-platform. So when you go to native development, and let's say in most projects at certain time, what you'll have is have two separate teams working on two different codes, a native iOS developers team and a native Android developers team. And it will be in these two code bases. You will be having a very hard time trying to, let's say, unify, especially when the designers want to unify the design between both platforms, trying to have a consistent look and feel for application. So what Flutter does here is to give you this ability to unify these kind of experiences. It will give you also, without compromising a lot on the performance, and with having the best of both worlds. So the question was from my side at that time, and yeah, that's good, that might happen, but these kind of frameworks, if there is something I want to build or I want to do, and it's not within that framework, or it was not supported by Flutter yet, or especially when in the beginning of the years of Flutter. So the good thing about Flutter that I think makes it a little bit unique than other platforms is that you have the ability to add some native code if you need to. So for example, if you want to add a functionality in Android and it is and in your application, sorry, and it is not available in Flutter, or it is not yet clear how to do it in Flutter, let's say, you still have the ability to open a method channel to your Android project, your iOS project, and do that natively and call it from your Flutter code. So this kind of things that allows Flutter to be something that you can rely on, something that you will not be saying that it will limit you. So Flutter is a tool that allows you to be more productive and be more achieving more in your development life. So, and the second thing that you can say, something that I really liked about Flutter also is the Skya rendering engine they are using. So it is very interesting to see this kind of concepts in an engine like on a framework like Flutter. So you can read about it. So yeah, so high velocity. So in Flutter, one of the things that let's say new joiners to Flutter will be experiencing that a little bit overwhelming at the beginning, which is writing the UI in code. So the way that Flutter code is written is Flutter is a declarative UI framework. So you have to declare by code, not like, for example, in your UI. For example, in Android, you have this XML file and you can drag and drop some buttons and things like that. So a declarative UI framework at the beginning sounds like might be harder for some people, like I want to adapt to it. So I think Jeffrey, raise your hand.
I was wondering if there's like JSX support or something. If you say it is like mostly declarative, or is that something that's not there yet for Flutter? JSX or like some sort of like XML based, like without code way to represent this.
Okay, I'm not sure there is something like this, but
Well, if you're familiar with React, I think they use like JSX and stuff. So I was wondering if.
Yeah, I can actually help with that. There is no declarative way. It's all through Dart. With Dart, you got the behavior and the presentation mixed together. It's all in one big thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. So yeah, so again, yeah, in the code, as Rob said, so you have the code here as a declarative in one place, like the code and the representation here in one place. So one of the features of Flutter here is that you have this what we call hot reload, where you can type in you can run the application, and whenever you do and make any changes here, it will reflect quickly just by saving the file on the application itself. So it's actually much faster to develop on Flutter than on other platforms because of these kind of features. So yeah, so another point here is that yeah, so you have the control and flexibility. Okay, so you have control over every pixel on the screen, which is something that can allow something that allows you to be more productive and do things as it allows the developer to be creative and try to do things as much as they want. Yeah. So yeah, again, so one of the things here also mentioned also was about the rendering engine. So the app itself contains so Flutter allows you also to build application with 60 FPS, 60 frames per second, which allows the application itself to look more natural and have more a natural look and feel. It will be smooth. So this is something that you will be able to play around with. So, all right.
I had a question about like the rendering pipeline. Is it like, when can you intercept and like inject your own, like checking for pixels and stuff like you were saying before? Is it like before and after for like the main widgets and stuff, or is like when is it like the same for iOS as well as Android?
So when do you
Well, I mean, you have like the high level APIs for like the widgets and stuff, right? When you're talking about like pixel perfect like UI stuff, like when can I hook into that? Like if I just want to draw like a line on the screen or something that's going diagonal or something, how is the pipeline working for that, where I can inject something like that into the pipeline?
So I think I'm trying to. So what I understood from you. So you want to know when the UI itself is going to be represented and how it will be rendered.
Right. So let's say I want to draw out like a very primitive red line, and I want to draw it behind a widget, and I want to draw a very primitive green line in front of the widget. Like, how is that pipeline happening?
Okay. So I got you. So yeah, this is an interesting question. So actually, let's say I will try to explain it in a simple way. So you have these widgets, or you're declaring these kind of elements, and what Flutter does, it goes through, let's say there are a couple of layers where it will take these instructions and convert them into, let's say, the representation you want to build. And in this layer, when this instruction was converted to instruction, these widgets or these layouts converted to a representation that will be displayed, or instructions that will be displayed. And you try to change something on the declarative or in the application itself. These instructions will be displayed through the framework itself, through these layers. And these, sorry, I think I just tried to lost my point, but I can show you something. I can share with you a session about how Flutter actually works in the background. I think it will be much clear on how these things are running. One of the things in that session they are discussing is that the way that these elements are rendered is, let's say, very flexible. So there are some people who are experimenting also things outside the libraries or outside of what Flutter actually provides, and they can build whatever these guys want. So I can share with you later on after the session some workshop on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's get started with the basics. So in Flutter, everything is a widget. So what a widget is a small piece of code that describes the UI or the interface. So this is an example for a widget that's called container. As you can see, you start with the widget name here, and every widget has its own parameters. These parameters describe what's inside the widgets, and let's say, depending on the widget itself, you can have things like related to the widget parameters that control how to describe the widget, like the width and height, things like that. So in this widget, a container is similar to a div for web developers. And inside of it, it has a child. And inside of that child, it has a different widget, which is a text. And so basically, this is how a Flutter application or a Flutter widget looks like. So in Flutter itself, there are two types of libraries, you can say. The first one is the material design library. This material design library has all the material look and feel components inside of it. So whenever you build, and it is similar to how Android looks like. So whenever you try to build an application, you can use these kind of materials. It has a lot of widgets, and you can reuse these ready-made widgets to build your app. Or also you have the option to use the Cupertino library, which has all the iOS styles and look and feels. And beside these two kind of collections, you have also your own custom widgets that you can build, and they are basically two types, a stateful widget and a stateless widget. So a stateless widget, so even just returning back to the section before, so even in the material design and in the Cupertino design libraries, these widgets are also either stateful and stateless. So basically they are custom, every widget either will be a stateful or stateless widget, but you have the option to build your own widgets. And so the difference between a stateful and stateless widget. So a stateless widget will be something that will not be changed. It's a static widget that will be displayed the same way from the beginning until the end of its life. However, a stateful widget will be something that will be changing. For example, here, if you are going to show a widget that will be displaying the name of the app, something that might not never change, for example, a stateless widget will be good to be used here. Or for a stateful widget, if you are trying to build something like a timer, a widget that will show the time, the current time by minute and second, it's also you will use a stateful widget in this case. So where we can find all the list of widgets. So Flutter have this kind of a catalog where you can go and search all the types that are existing in the Cupertino and material collections. This is and these documentation sometimes have pictures and videos that will help going on while you are trying to build up your app. So when trying to create a new your own widget, this is how a simple format of a stateless widget will look like. So you start with a class, you will call the widget a name that you want to do, you want to name it, and you will extend the stateless widget. Inside of this stateless widget, you will have, you will override the build function that it will contain whatever you want to be done inside of that widget. So for stateful widgets, it will be something similar. So at the first part, you will be extending the stateful widget class, and at the second function, you will be extending also the state with the type of the stateful widget that you have defined earlier. And inside of the widget itself, you will be calling or assigning this state to the widget. And it will be something similar to how it will be shown. It will be similar, the state itself function, it will be similar to the build function should be similar to the stateless widget. Yeah, so it will be similar to how the stateless widget will be looking like. So one of the functions or the kind of things that Flutter is nice, let's say, one of the nice things in Flutter is that they have some command lines that helps a lot in when it comes to development. And one of them is Flutter Doctor. This command will shows you a full report on your setup. Have you downloaded the right IDEs? Have you have all, let's say, the requirements? And it will run this checkup for you and gives you like a check if it's available or not. Basic things like Flutter Run is also there. In the Flutter project, you will have this a file called pubspec.yaml. This file will have will be the dependency and the SDKs management here. So if you want to add any kind of dependencies, you will be able to add it from here. You'll just declare the dependencies in this file. And there is a cool website that has all these kind of dependencies in, which is, I think, dart.pub. Let me just check it out. Yeah, pub.dev. So you will be able to find different kinds or all kinds of available dependencies here. So yeah, so once you add any kind of changes to the pubspec.yaml folder file, you will be able to run. You have to run commands like flutter packages get to download these dependencies, or packages upgrade if you want to upgrade them. Okay, so we'll start with the 10 widgets that we have mentioned earlier. So the first one is called the material app widget. This is a widget that will define the application that we will be using. And it will define the style also, which is material style in this case. So calling this material application widget, you will have a material app. You have the what's inside of the property inside of the material app is home, and you will call the first widget that you want to call. And here you can define also a title, a theme. It will be all mentioned inside of this material app widget, which will describe your app. The second widget will be a scaffold widget. Scaffold will be something that will hold in the structure of the application. So it will be it will have the AppBar, the body, the background color, things like that. And next will be the AppBar widget. The AppBar widget, you will be able to add it inside of the scaffold, and it will describe the whole AppBar at the top of the application. So here's an example how to be used and some of its properties. So title, leading, and actions. So leadings is what's in the beginning or on the left side of the AppBar, and actions on the right side. So yeah, so basic things like the text. Text is also one of the widgets here that is essential in building Flutter applications in this workshop. So yeah, the next one is containers. So a container. Container is similar to dev and web development. It can be used to repositioning, adding some sizing into other widgets. So can be used to edit the width and height. It's something that can be used in a lot of ways. Column is the next widget. Column also one of the widgets that allows you to have multiple children inside of it, and you have things you can easily adjust also the alignments here by going through these cross axis alignments and main axis alignments to adjust how the column will look and feel inside of it. Row is the second widget, so it's similar to the column widget. And image, so one of the widgets here also is using image widget and .network.image URL. or you can use a shortcut for that widget, which is image.network, and giving it the URL path. So one of the things to mention also is that if you want to add an image inside of the project, you can have it. You should define the path inside of the pubspec.yaml file. And the next widget is the material button. Material button is yeah, so it's the button on the start. Okay, a basic way of using a button. So yeah, you have flat button. Also, you have other kind of buttons like the flat button, outline button, or raise button. And one of the things that I really liked in Flutter, which is the icon widget, where you can add easily an icon wherever you want. And yeah, so one of the things that I really like about Flutter is this widget. So when you click on icons and dot after it, it will just show you all the options that you have. So with these 10 widgets, you can build something similar to the UI that is shown here in this image. And this UI was built using these 10 widgets that we have described here. And I have it in this, sorry, I have, yeah. So, so let me go through the code here and show you how, like show you things on the IDE itself. So in Flutter, you can use Visual Studio Code or Android Studio for your development. So I personally like to use Android Studio. Yeah, so the Flutter project, as we mentioned in the slides, has this pubspec.yaml here, where you can have you can define your dependencies and have them defined here. Inside of the project itself, you will see Android folders, iOS folders. These folders can be run inside of Android Studio, for example, here as an Android application, as an Android project. And you can go through Gradle and things like that, that you would do normally in Android development project. Inside of the lib file, you will have your Dart files that you will be running. So the first thing in any Flutter application is the main function to be called. Inside of the main function, you will be calling the first widget here is the stateless widget. So inside of that, you will have, so we'll start going through how we used all these kind of widgets that we mentioned. So the material app widget here, we have used also a theme for that with the primary swatch, and we have defined another widget for the home page. Inside we have we defined it as a stateful widget, and inside you will have so inside of that home widget, you have the scaffold. It was defining an AppBar. Here the AppBar is in a different way. So just demonstrating that you are able to define a widget in a variable style, like a variable way, and you can reuse it inside of the widget itself, inside where it's supposed to be used. And yeah, so inside of the body, you have the column here, containers, And yeah, so yeah, on the rows,
What are the unit sizes in? Are those in pixels?
the media query sizes.
Well, any of the unit sizes, like, I don't know what is size dot height? What is that in? Is
Yeah,
that
so yeah, the size here is so here we are describing a declarative, let's say, way. So the size here, they are all in the same unit. They don't define the units here. It's just you can say a relative a relative way of describing the height. So it's for here this type of. Sorry.
like EM or something like that, or?
Again, I don't mean to step on your toes or anything, Saeed. The units are logical pixels.
Yeah.
And the logical pixels are device independent. They depend upon the size of the device. So it's roughly 35, I think 38 logical pixels per centimeter, or like 96 per inch, something like that, for the physical device. So it depends on the kind of device that you're on, but it's not a true pixel, if that helps. It's close to it, though.
It's basically the equivalent of the Android DIP, density independent pixel. It doesn't operate like SP or SIP, if you call it that, but it does not operate like scale independent pixel unless you are talking specifically about the text widget. The text widget automatically does so.
Okay.
Just like it does in Compose.
And for like that dot height thing, it's all going to be that like pixel relative thing, right? It's not like a type system where you can change it and like dot height might be a different type, like actual pixels. It's all the same.
Yeah, as long as you're declaring it in the container. As you're declare it depends on where and how you're declaring it. But what you're probably thinking of is like the equivalency with Canvas, and there kind of is not a equivalent necessarily when it comes to the regular Flutter environment.
Right. That's an excellent explanation. There's no M's or points, or, pixel is the closest thing, but there's no alternatives really.
Okay. And in terms of like scaling and zooming, like how does that affect it in terms of the math? Like if I zoomed in on a widget, I've seen that like the animations and stuff. So I'm just wondering like a percentage of a pixel.
Well, I'd have to see what you're talking about, but
there's no dithering effects. If that's what you're asking, there's no dithering. This is actually what's going on with the Skia side of things. They basically also borrowed a lot of kind of concepts from the Android OS type of piece here, where there's no dithering effect. Everything's done in true scale multipliers. So you're not gonna have edges, and you don't have transition edges. If anything, if you looked really, really close, you might see like the only time there's like dither effects or anything like that would be if you're trying to draw like Bezier curves and trying to get a circle, and like that's just inherent with Bezier curves. It's not a thing that's like inherent in the library, if that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I've read too much about how this works.
I'm really curious. It seems like they made it very easy, but I'm also wondering, like, I've had to deal with all these problems. How do they get around it, kind of stuff?
Yeah, they really did a lot of this, and they did such a good job that the current Android front end code style was actually pretty much lifted and copied straight out of what was developed for Flutter.
Right. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Rab and Jeffrey also. So yeah. So I want to apologize. I'm kind of not feeling well while I'm while I'm delivering this presentation. So I'll just show you guys. So we also have completed 1 hour, I think. So I have the code in my GitHub account. So we can share the link here in the chat. And yeah, so part of this challenge was to develop 2 kind of pages with these simple widgets. The first one will be a details page, and the second one will be a list page. And the idea here is using these simple widgets, you can build these kind of 2 types of pages, and as a beginner, and then try to make them into one application, a full flow, and see the challenges that explore the challenges that happens when you do that. I think yeah, so I really apologize. I started not to feel well while I'm presenting the and yeah, if there's something you guys would like share, or any questions if you guys would like to ask. I hope this workshop was useful. And yeah, floor is open. Thank you, As, for
Hey, weird question. Can you develop on iOS on a Windows machine now?
so you're asking if we can develop iOS on Windows machine?
Yeah.
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
But with Flutter, you can develop the code itself, but you have to take it to a Mac machine and then compile and run the project. However, you cannot compile it inside a Windows machine.
Like Smile, you'd have to still have access to some sort of Mac. But I think your point is basically like you could write most of the app and like basically get it working, and then yeah, either borrow a Mac or do something to just kind of get that last mile a lot easier than having to actually do all the development on there. So I think the short answer is yes, but it's like, well, not 100%, but a lot of it, yes.
So yeah, I think it's taking too much time here. Not sure why. Anyway, the code itself, it's in inside the.
So you're on an Intel Windows developing for ARM, is that correct?
So my device here,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an Intel Windows, Intel i7, I think, something like that. But it's a PC, not an ARM. Yeah, so yeah, you can find the projects in my GitHub account, in my GitHub.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's great. We'll definitely pass that link along, and if you're watching the video, it'll be down in the description somewhere, and we'll definitely share that with everybody. And just want to say thank you again so much for presenting, especially you're not feeling well, and it's 5 a.m. where you are, and like we're all ending our day, and you're kind of at the beginning and doing that. So hopefully you can get some rest and feel better. but we really do appreciate it. And thank you so much for teaching Gigi Dallas a little bit more about Flutter.
Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Apologize again. I think hopefully next time or whenever we meet again, it will be in a better situation. And yeah, thank you guys and have a nice night. Good night, I can say. All right.